So today I thought I'd have a quick look at a couple of my favourite ground baits from the Colmic range, and probably the two that are most available in the UK. And these are, of course, Impressive Mix and Black Monster. So what I like about these ground baits is, first of all, they're very fine ground baits, as you'll see in a minute. The Impressive Mix is a lighter colour. It's got little particles and bits and pieces in, but it's a very fine ground bait, but it still binds quite well. Okay, the Black Monster is a much stickier ground bait. This is the one we'll be mixing up today, and I find it's particularly useful when you want to either add lots of particles or lots of loose feed to your balls of ground bait to get them down, because it is quite sticky and it does bind very well. It also gives off a nice cloud in the water to attract fish into the peg. It's not got too much activity, but it's got enough activity to draw fish in, but it won't push them at all levels in the water. And the other thing it's really useful for is if you're going to add it to terre de somme or leam or soil to cut the amount of feed you're putting into the peg. Because of its stickiness, it actually binds leams and soils really well together, and the balls will go in hard, get to the bottom, and then break up the way you want them to, where you want them to, without releasing all that feed all over the peg. So the other thing that's really good about all of the Colmic ranges is that they're really easy to use and mix up. These ground baits pretty much take one pint tub of water to 1 kilo of ground bait. Gives you just about the perfect mix. So today I'm going to be fishing for skimmers. I'm going to be putting some leam through it because I don't want to put too much feed into the water. I'd rather have more particles and more loose offerings through my bait than a big rich ground bait to feed the fish off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix up a bag of Black Monster. We'll get it right in the bucket. That will give us, a kilo gives us about 3 litres. And then what I'm probably going to do then afterwards is sieve a 2 kilo bag of leam through it, which will give me about 5 litres of ground bait to be working with, which is plenty for what we're doing today. So mixing the ground bait, the other thing about the Colmic bags, they open nice and easy. You don't have to be faffing about too much, trying to rip them open or cut them open. I'll put it through a riddle so you can see, but in fact no, we'll just pour it into the box and we'll riddle it afterwards. That's the ground bait in the bucket. Always put our rubbish away, take it away with us. We're then going to take, basically this is a standard 1 pint or half litre bait tub that most people have, and inside there's a little rim. If I fill that up just to that rim and add that straight to the mix, it'll be just about spot on. So we'll do that to start with. I might today want to add a little bit more afterwards. So there you go, up to the thing. Before I put it in, if I was going to be blending the 2 ground baits together, what Impressive Mix is really good for is lightening the mix. So if I wanted the mix to break up a bit quicker, I didn't want it quite as sticky, then I'd add some Impressive Mix, 50-50 maybe, and that would break down a lot quicker. That clouds quite well as well. So today though, as I said, we're going to be adding leam to it, so I want the sticky mix. So all I'm going to do is I'm literally going to plonk that straight into the bucket, get my drill, make sure it's well mixed through, and I'm just going to leave that now to stand for a few minutes to soak up the water, because it looks at the moment a little bit over wetted. Okay, it's a bit claggy. Okay, but trust me, give that a few minutes and it will come round and it'll be spot on. And then I'll move the camera a bit closer so you can see me actually drilling the mix in the bucket. And then what we'll do is we'll then add a little bit more water if we need to. As I say, I'm going to add leam today, so I might want it a little bit over wetted to take into account the slightly drying effect of the leam. But I'll mix it as if we were going to use it neat first, so you can see what it should look like once you've mixed it up. So as I say, 1 tub of water in, mix it, let it stand while you sort your gear out, and that's what I'm going to do now. And then when I get back, I'll come and put the camera right over the bucket and we'll zoom it up a bit and then push it through the riddle, and you can actually see the consistency and see how it binds together. Okay, so we're all sorted out at the peg. So the ground bait's been sitting in the bucket now for about 20 minutes or so. As you can see, it needs a good mix. So what we'll do is we'll get the drill in there, give it a good It's always important when you're drilling ground bait to make sure that you get in all of the corners of the bucket, so there's no little pockets of dry ground bait around the side, because otherwise what happens is that you end up with a very inconsistent mix. And talking about consistency in mixes, had I mixed the impressive mix with the Black Monster, if I was doing a 50-50 mix, I'd have mixed the two ground baits together dry before I added the water. And that's really important, because the two types of ground baits will absorb water at different rates, and if you don't mix them together before you start adding water, you can end up again with a very inconsistent mix. Get the bits of grass out. So that's, as you can see there, we've got a nice mix. It's quite full of little bits of pastoncino, tiny little bits though. Okay, it's a nice fine mix still, but it is very sticky. So if I squeeze a ball together, as you can see one-handed, the ball actually creates quite a firm, solid ball, okay, which will take quite a lot of feed and get to the bottom. So what we'll do is we're going to pop these two out of this bucket. We'll pour this into here. Okay, as I said before, mix that up. There's my lines. 3 litres of ground bait. So what we're going to do is pop it through a riddle. We'll do it a bit at a time. If you put everything on too much at a time when you're doing ground bait, what can happen is it just clags up in the riddle and makes it quite difficult to get through. So all we do is give it a quick shake to get all the fine stuff mixed through that's already gone through it. And then we're ended up with a couple of these little lumps and bits and pieces. We don't want to throw that away. That's where all the moisture is in the ground bait. So what we want is we want that to go through the riddle. So we're just going to put a hand on top. Now, if your riddle's not new, I would suggest actually putting a glove on to do this, just to stop you catching. Riddles can give you some nasty cuts if the wires are broken, but this is a fairly new one, so we should get away with it. So as I say, little mix through. It's gone through dead easy. As I say, it's a very fine ground bait. This riddle we're using today is actually a pinky riddle, because I want to get all the lumps out of the ground bait today. I don't want anything too lumpy going in. There you go, everything's gone through into the bucket below. Okay, now that mix as it is now, if I was going to fish, I could add lots of particles to that and form a ball really easy to feed into the peg or whatever size I wanted to. Because it's sticky, it's also really good for catapulting if you're feeding balls of ground bait long, because you don't have to really over wet it to make it hold together well enough to catapult if you're fishing the slider. So today, as I said before, what we were going to do is we're going to add some leam. I'm not going to do that just yet, but because I'm adding leam, what I'd probably do with that is add just a touch more water, or drill the leam and spray the leam so that it doesn't dry the mix out. Because what I want is I want a mix that binds and breaks up well. So if I was adding leam straight, I'd over wet it slightly more, pop the leam through the riddle, mix it in, and then drill everything together. Okay, and then use an atomizer to get the consistency exactly the way I want it. And of course, whenever you're using ground baits, particularly in the summer when it can dry out quite quickly, is always cover your ground baits. You can cover it with a towel or a ground bait cover, bucket cover, because we don't want your ground bait drying out and the consistency changing during the day as you're fishing with it. You want your ground bait to stay the same consistency and work the same from the first balls you feed into your peg to the very last balls you feed at the end of the match. So I hope that's been useful. All these ground baits, the impressive mix and more importantly the new black monster in the new bags are available from all your best Colmic retailers. I'd really encourage you to have a go with them. They're absolutely brilliant ground baits. They've caught me tons of fish over the past few years when I've been using them, and I know you'll be happy with them. So off to do some fishing.